You're just trying to prove yourself. And then you'll try to write the same thing that you just wrote. And it won't come out of inspiration. It won't be really anything fresh or new. You'll just be recycling the same thing that you already did. And one of the major reasons for that is because of falling into this temptation of trying to prove ourselves. We're trying to prove ourselves. See, I remember this Methodist minister praying to me early on in my life. I'm pretty early on in my life now too, but I don't know how old I'm going to live, but I'm only 34, so I'm kind of young. But this was back when I was like 20. And this Methodist minister in Missouri sat with me for coffee, and he said these words to me. He said, Jason, you know what you need to learn to do? You need to learn to be still and know that he is God. In fact, he just quoted that word over me. Be still and know that I am God. And then he said these words. He said, be still and know that I am. And then he said, be still and know, Jason. And then he said, be still. And then he said, be. Because be is the beginning of beginning. And it's the beginning of believing. And it's the beginning of behaving. And it's the beginning of becoming. And it's the beginning of belonging. And it's the beginning of beloved. And you're the beloved of God. So be. Hueras, he's a scholar, he says this. He says that sin, this is his definition, not mine, I think it's a good one. He says that sin, ultimately, sin is basically quite literally being something that we were never supposed to be. I remember my father-in-law telling me early on when we were doing music and ministry, him just saying to me, the only thing that I'm going to do if I'm going to sit on a board, because he'd been in business for years and been in lots of nonprofit boards and everything, and he said, the only thing I'm doing here is I'm going to make sure that you never become successful at something you were never created to be. Because that's one of the worst things that can ever happen to you. We have got to learn to break the power of having to prove ourselves. God made you and he said, you're good. I'm not saying that we don't have sin in our lives, we don't need to get rid of it, but when his fire comes that we're talking about, it does not burn away what's eternal. That's why we run into it. Remember what we said that last night? The fire to the Father. Your fire comes, gets us back to the Father. You're just bringing us back to the Father, and you're bringing us back to what we were created for. It never destroys who he made you to be. That's why you can jump into it. Unless, of course, like I said, you're Adam and you want to hide behind the bush and be in control of your sin and you don't really want to walk with the Father, then you're not going to like the fire and you're not going to like the shaking.